So, any questions tonight?
So, I just heard a lecture by a Vaishnav who seemed to be stressing the importance of having, even at the preliminary stage of devotional practice, knowledge of and mental concentration on one's siddha deha. It kind of bewildered me as to, I've always thought that such things come much later than, and require some true standing in our practice before we even begin to contemplate such intimate service to the Supreme. That we should start with servicing our sadhaka deha and not have much concern for siddha deha in the beginning. Could you give some framework for that in our practice?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that it should be apparent that the stages of sadhana bhakti, you have 9 stages given by Rupa Goswami, beginning with faith, initial faith, that is actually brought on by association with devotees in an unfocused way. But in due course, it's an accumulative effect. Association with devotees, knowingly or unknowingly, the ideas has an effect. What it is that moves a devotee is bhakti herself, and of course, the extent to which that's the case depends on how advanced the devotee is. So, that said, we have considerable literary legacy and tradition, and it's penned by very advanced devotees. And so their feelings, their sentiments, their inner life is going to come through. That's what's driving their movement in the world. And so while there is the formal distinction between bhakti and practice, sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti, and that distinction is emphasized by way of describing the ingress, if you will, of Krishna's internal potency, the Swarup Shakti, onto the mind of the sadhaka, taking over the mind and so forth. That's not to say that the Swarup Shakti that bhakti is constituted of has not made ingress into the sadhaka before that stage, but that is a prominent stage of the development of kind of the influence of the Swarup Shakti, of becoming more and more under the influence of bhakti. For example, in the stage of ruchi, becoming attached to bhakti, and that being characterized by Mahaprabhu as Nadanam Nadanam Sundaram Kavitavaya, and no other attachment. Not even Mama Janmani Janmanishpuri, not even concerned about transcending birth and death. The attachment to bhakti, that in the next stage, the last stage of sadhana, sakti, attachment to Krishna, the object of bhakti. And as I often say, the attachment to bhakti in the stage of ruchi is a specific type of attachment because it has a corresponding object that comes more into focus in asakti. It's not a general taste. A specific taste means that an inner identity is forming. So the point here is that before Bhava Bhakti, Swarup Shakti is active in sadhaka's life because the Swarup Shakti is bhakti. So as soon as he or she comes in touch with bhakti, takes up the path and so forth, that influence is there. But the stages of sadhana bhakti, given leading to bhava bhakti, and bhava bhakti being the stage, and prema bhakti being the last of the 9 stages, obviously speak about a progression, development, and therefore the higher we go on the stages, the more there will be ability, the more there will be the ability to turn, if you will, from the external world to the inward. Inward in the meditative life, if you will, that really wholly corresponds with Bhava Bhakti. And there it's spontaneous and ongoing and so forth. Very simple point is worth making in this regard, and that is that while the qualification to pursue the path of Radha Bhakti with the ideal of entering into the Vrindavan Lila and so forth is open to anyone who so desires it or who has the association that gives rise to such a desire. At the same time, the ability to meditate requires further qualification. Meditation, you can, for example, you can do kirtan, and your mind might be somewhere else, but still it will have some effect. What effect will it have? Mahaprabhu speaks about different effects in the Shikshastakam, and the effects that he speaks about are all derived from Sankirtan, which is his method. This is what this Shikshastakam is about. Param Vijayate, Shri Krishna Sankirtan. This is his method. Nam Sankirtan. And so as we do Nam Sankirtan, we develop through different stages. And the first stage is the purifying of the heart. He describes Cheto Darpana Marjana, the mirror of the mind, as cleansing the chitta that is impacted or influenced by impressions from the world, is cleansed of those impressions by way of bhakti, impressions of bhakti being placed on it. Prabhupada sometimes will give an example that if you have a bottle of ink and you pour milk into it, if you keep pouring it, it'll start to come out blue and bluish white, and eventually it'll all come out white. Something like that. So the system, method, we're getting rid of the color of material attachment. Just to put the pure white milk of nourishing milk of bhakti, so to speak, into our lives. So the approach for removing the negative is positive. But as we do that, we will pass through different stages. Again, the first stage is the removal of the negative, is the Chaita Doctrine of Marjanam. And that continues from Shraddha to Bhajana Kriya, Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, and in Nishta, much of the ink is gone, if you will, in our example. Enough that one's practice is uninterrupted, and enough that one's attention can be focused on, for example, his nam smaran, his chanting of japa, or his or her chanting of kirtan. The mind's not going somewhere else. So this is a kind of an interim stage, if you will, that Mahaprabhu himself talks about as such. Come to Nishta, and then Kirtaniya Sadahari, and then you can enter into the world of uninterrupted practice, Krishna Anushilam, uninterrupted culture, which will bring taste and inner absorption and attachment to Krishna and bhava, spiritual emotion. So there are stages, and certain aspects of the culture are not appropriate or cannot effectively be engaged in at lower stages of practice. Meditation, for example, in any deep sense, as I'm saying, cannot be effectively engaged in with a distracted mind. That doesn't mean there's no place for meditation for less advanced devotees. We do what Jiva Goswami has advocated, Nam Smaranam. So this is our japa. We do kirtan and we do Nam Smaranam. And the view is not only to cleanse the heart, but to cleanse the heart in the context of pursuing an ideal of life in Lila Seva. So, my point here is that there are different stages, and in higher stages, you're going to be more capable of certain practices than you are in early stages. Indeed, if you come from the Western world and you become a little interested in Gaudiya Vaishnavism and so forth, it probably would not be very fruitful to sit down and tell someone on day one that they're teaching you how to become a prepubescent, eternal handmaiden of Radha. You know, we start a little differently than that. There's a difference between matter and spirit and so forth. Now, while Rupa Goswami has stated in Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu that Gyan and Vairagya are not angas or limbs of bhakti, he said they may be a little useful in the beginning. This is in a culture where it's accepted that universally that people are, that there's something called an Atma, it's reincarnating, the goal of life is mukti, there's a likeness at least between Atma and Brahman. If there's anything in the world that's most like God, it's you. It's because your consciousness, not matter, and so forth. Meanwhile, here we're in a Western world. It's not the accepted norm and standard of knowledge and so on and so forth. So you may have to use an example, if you have a car with a battery that's stalled, a manual transmission, then you can push it, and then if it gets going a little bit, then it will start. Once it starts, then pushing is, okay, it's gone, it's on its own. But to get it going, a little pushing may be required. So a little gyan, a little emphasis on vairagya, which promotes gyan, which promotes vairagya, which promotes gyan. In the context of bhakti and so forth, would seem appropriate to get the engine going, so to speak. Now, there's a couple ways in which the engine could get going, and that is through theoretical knowledge acquired. We may refine our practice and understanding of what we're doing, and so on and so forth. And secondly, hopefully, by such practice, we're going to get experience and taste and develop through the different stages and so forth. But that said, it may take a long time to move through those stages, even if you have considerable theoretical knowledge that the person who you just met at the Sunday Love Feast of 1969 didn't know anything about, and you didn't know much about it either, even though you were the teacher there. So even today, where there's a lot more information, if you will, about Gaudiya Vaishnavism out and about, and people may be more readily teachable about the prayojan, the goal, what it means to enter the lila, and so on and so forth. It doesn't necessarily correspond with they being more spiritually advanced. You could have quite a bit of knowledge, theoretical knowledge, in earlier stages. Hopefully, it's going to fuel your practice. That's the idea of it. But it takes considerable practice to pass through the stages. I mean, we talked a little bit the other night about the sages of Dharma. They had to wait a yuga. They were chanting the Gopal mantra. They got the darshan of Ram. We thought, that's him, I think. That's who we're meditating on. But he said, not quite. I have made a vow to have only one wife, and there are many of you, so you have to wait. The next yuga I will come in a form that will correspond entirely with your mantra, and you can experience that kind of relationship with me. So, such examples shouldn't be lost on us. It may take a little time. And so there may be a tendency also amongst those who have a head full of theoretical knowledge to get ahead of themselves in terms of their capability, their eligibility for practice. And they may want to incorporate practices that they're not very capable of incorporating, and they may be eager for them, which is that ideal, in ways that don't correspond with their reality. They may have an eagerness that doesn't really constitute a greed, if you will, for bhakti that has resulted in all other greed disappearing, all other interests disappearing. And it may be more mental, where you have intellectual, you have some knowledge, and you want more, but you're not really capable, so to speak. And in our lineage, both Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they were concerned about this. And they saw persons who had a lot of theoretical knowledge and so forth, but their activities didn't correspond. Their lifestyle didn't correspond with the knowledge, theoretical knowledge that they had. And so it was a cause, as I say, of concern for them. And I think that as knowledge and information about Gaudiya Vaishnavism, what it's about, is out and about, you hear it long enough, you can start to get a grip on it, so on and so forth. But you have to see that your knowledge is fostering kind of practice that's actually changing your life, and to the extent that it's not, then there may be practices that are more appropriate and will come in a natural way as you progress, that you may artificially get involved in. So this was a major focus of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was commissioned by Bhaktivinoda, who was concerned about the condition of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which has a very high ideal, and is, it's said to make liberation look insignificant. It's said to make reverential love in Vaikuntha to be also boring by comparison, and so you're talking about something very extraordinary, and in their language, not cheap. That might be not only misunderstood, but perhaps not maybe misunderstood theoretically, but again, it's one thing to have your head around what it is and be able to explain it. Another thing, what your level of eligibility may be to participate and pursue. There will be a pursuance, no doubt, but at different levels. And obviously, what the pursuance involves will be different. What a devotee in the stage of ruchi is going to, what their practice is going to be, is going to be similar but different and include more than what the practice is going to be in the stage of unsteady practice, where you chant, sometimes you don't chant, sometimes you get distracted by so many influences of the world, currents of the world, and so on and so forth. So I think that's very down to earth, very practical. The stages constitute more and more absorption under the influence of the Swarup Shakti, under the influence of bhakti. And it's taking you from an external preoccupation with sense objects for the pleasure of your senses and the identity that forms out of that, to inner life and attachment to Krishna and the identity that forms from that. So these stages are themselves moving inwardly in the direction of an identity in Krishna, appropriate for serving Krishna in his Leela. And so the main method, if you will, for progressing through the stages, as given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is Nam Sankirtan. That is the main method. And as I said earlier, the Nam Sankirtan is such that it cleanses the heart, and the extent that it does, obviously, one becomes more capable of meditating. Now, does that mean we don't meditate? We don't. Of course, we try to focus the mind, but the unique thing about the name of Krishna, which differentiates it from the form of Krishna, from the qualities of Krishna, from the Leela of Krishna, which are also non-different from him. Krishna Leela is non-different from him. His form is non-different from him. His qualities are non-different from him. His name is non-different from him. But the name is different from them, his Rupa, Guna, and Leela, in that it is very magnanimous, very generous. Rupa Goswami in particular says the name is more generous than the form. If you offend the form, the name still comes to you. So this is the main focus then, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nam namakari bahudami disarva shaktis tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kala etadishi tabakripa bhagavan namapi dudaiva midvisha vihatini namakari. He's lamenting. The name is like so generous, and I have no attraction. I'm embarrassed by this. I have other interests. I shouldn't. The name is so extraordinary and so generous at the same time. So the idea then, given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is that by chanting, which is the Kali Yuga Dharma also, that the inner life will arise and the ability to meditate will arise. And what will you meditate on? Well, inside the name is the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the Leelas of Krishna. So how can you chant continually through the progressive stages and not expect that the form of Krishna will appear in your mind and in your heart while chanting? That the qualities of Krishna will not appear, that the Leelas of Krishna will not appear. I say this because, relative to your question, some people nowadays say chanting is not, you can't just chant, that's not enough. You've got to add this something else to your practice. You better hurry up. This chanting is not going to work for you. Maybe they say it does, but it doesn't work. Somebody he told me that there's no examples of anyone becoming perfect by chanting. There are hundreds of examples. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set the example. Now, if the chanting will lead to the capacity to meditate, and that the form to meditate upon will come out of the name, and the qualities will come out, and the leaves will come out. And what form will come out of the name? Again, as I said again, we're influenced by bhakti through sadhusanga. So relative to the kind of influence that we have, we are the Gaudiya Sampradaya. So you're going to be influenced by Gaudiya sensibilities. So who wrote the books? Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. What's their inner life? They're all handmaidens of Radha in their inner landscape. And you go on down the list. This is far and away the prominent influence of spiritual influence within Gaudiya Vaishnava. And the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita is about Manjari Bhav, the vision of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what he came to give from the perspective of Rupa Goswami. Now, that bhava can only be play itself out in connection with the leading, the hero and heroine need subordinate, what they call secondary supporting roles and so forth. And of course, you have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who come along, he came with Nityananda Prabhu. So Nityananda Prabhu is a powerful influence in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And nobody pushed people, jivas, towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and what he came to give, or what he's about, let us say, that comes out of him without trying. He's pursuing Krishna, pursuing the love of Radha. So the bhav of Radha, what he seeks to taste, and it overflows on other people in a way that the jivas could come closest to tasting it. We can't become Radha. Krishna's trying to become Radha, but we're not Krishna. He's having a hard time, but his main spokespersons then were the Goswamis. And we see they are all tasting the Radha Bhav through being handmaidens of Radha. So again, that's prominent. It comes down through the lineage, and it's the literature, the songs are saturated with this. Then again, Nityananda Prabhu was there. While no one pushed people towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu more than Nityananda Prabhu, invariably, or nonetheless, some people are going to be influenced by the Bhav of Nityananda Prabhu. And he came with his associates. They had lineages and so forth. We find in the modern era that it's come up. It came up prominently at the time of Vishwanath Thakur with that text, Praya Bhakti Rasarnava. I think it was end of the 17th century, something like that, early 1700s maybe, beginning of the 18th century. So it's a long time ago. And then again, in Prabhupada, this huge wave of Sakyaras influenced by Nityananda Prabhu. His family was the patron saint was Udaran Datta, one of the Dukwaras Gopals. They make a pilgrimage every year to Udaran Datta's place where he has preaching center. You might have read a book called "Oh My Friend." Published Marsh wrote. So that's there too. But point being what? That there are influences that make our sampradaya what it is. There are different influences in the Ramanuja sampradaya. It's not just a difference in tattva. There's a difference in bhava. It corresponds with the tattva, the way the tattva is explained. So there are different bhavas to be attained in Ramanuja sampradaya, the Madhva sampradaya, and the Nimbarka sampradaya, the Vallabha sampradaya. And their siddhanta, their tattva, corresponds with that. So we shouldn't look at Gaudiya Vaishnavism as get any bhav. You could by chanting Hare Krishna, that's true. But the Nam Shreshtam that Raghunath Das is talking about, the highest conception behind the name that Mahaprabhu gave, well, that's what Gaudiya Vaishnavism is really about. I've said before, Gaudiya Vaishnavism is very, very specific and very universal at the same time, because the God is Krishna, who's the source of all forms of divinity. But it's about him in pursuit of Radha's love, so it's a peculiar moment, eternal moment in the history of the life of the Godhead that we're focused on. But he is Swami Bhagawan, nonetheless. So other representations of bhakti can be derived from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and from the chanting Hare Krishna, which is universal. You could take the name Ram and mean Ramachandra, and some people do that in South India and so on. So we've talked about that. So it is broad like that, but it is specific also. And we talk really about what is the Gaudiya Vaishnava Prayojan about. Then it's not mukti of Vaikuntha, it's prema, and it's the prema of Braj in particular, and so on and so forth. So these are the influences that one comes under. And so we don't have to wonder then too much what form of Krishna will arise having received the name and the bhakti impressions from this lineage that we have. What form it will come in the form of Krishna in Vrindavan, either as in Sakya Rasa or Madhurya Rasa, and the Madhurya Rasa of Tadbhav, or particularly the kind of handmaidenship of Radha. This is what it's about. Or relative to influence, Sakya Rasa is there in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, as we see. So when you chant, then in due course, the form of Krishna will come out, so to speak, of the name, and it will take over your mind. What do you think it will do? some people say you better add something because you got to focus the mind. If the name is not going to do that, the name has no power. The name just cleanses the heart and then just sit there unless you do something else. The name, therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Swami is saying, Kirtana Prabhavi Smarana Swabhavi, by the power of Kirtan, which is considerable. I mean, how you want to sit around for a few hours and bring out all the statements of the Mahima of the name and its power. One's chanting, capable of eradicating more sins than the whole world can commit, this kind of thing. And there's no exaggeration there, or it's nama-aparada. You think there is a power, but it was considerable. As Mahaprabhu was saying in the second verse of Shikshasya, and I quoted, Nam Namakari Bahura, Nija Sarva Shakti, all your power is in your name, all of your power. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami says, Krishna is more attracted to his name than he is to himself. Even though the name is one, it's also different. He's more attracted to his name than he is to himself. Therefore he says, wherever my name is chanted, that's where I am. Aham Vaikuntha Tishtami, in other words. I'm not in Vaikuntha. Yoginam Hridayeshu Va, neither am I in the heart of the yogis. Yatra Gayanti Madbhakta, he says in the heart. Where am I? Wherever my devotees are chanting my name, there I'm present. So many statements like this. So the power of the name should never be underestimated. And especially this is its time, if you will, the Kali Yuga time as well. So I've heard some statements like this, and the kind of thing you're referring to. I believe that chanting is not enough. It almost sounds like Namaparat to me. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, his idea was by the power of the name, Kirtana Prabhavi, Smarana Swabhavi. Smarana on one's Swabhav means here budding spiritual nature and identity will arise naturally. The name will cleanse the heart. The name will show himself with a particular form. What will the form be? Four-armed Krishna? No. Right? It will be a form of Krishna that corresponds with the sentiments of Madhurya Rasa, Sakhya Rasa. What will the qualities be then? The guna that comes out of the name. Relative to the influence that you've had over lifetimes, and in this case, it's Gaudiya influence, Sakhya Rasa, Madhurya Rasa, and qualities that correspond. There are certain qualities that are very, really stick out in Krishna, to one in Sakhya Rasa, to one in Vatsalya Rasa, to one in Dasya Rasa, to one in Madhurya Rasa. Of the 64 plus qualities Goswami has mentioned, and the ones in the Bhagavatam, Goswami placed it out, I think in Krishna Sundar, 84 qualities or something. You have unlimited qualities, but at any rate, Rupa Goswami has kindly shown for each of the primary rasas, he's highlighting which qualities of Krishna will stand out. So these will become attractive to the devotee. So what form of Krishna, it's also described, for example, in the chapter on Sakhya Rasa, he gives verses describing Krishna, how he's seen Sakhya Rasa from Bhagavatam and other places. So this is the form that he will experience with the inner eye. These are the qualities that will become prominent. And then these are the leelas that will become prominent. And the name will reveal all of these things. Now, the point here is that when the form is specific and the qualities are specific, then the leelas are specific. They're specific for a reason, obviously, because they're corresponding with the love in the heart of the devotee that is now developing, which was imbibed by that devotee in the beginning of their contact with bhakti. They got impressions from bhakti. The impressions were unknowingly they got impressions. With some knowledge of what was happening, they got impressions. They got more impressions of bhakti. And suddenly they had faith in bhakti. Where did the faith come? Did we need something else there? It came by sadhusanga, by the method Here, and then they systematically associate with devotees here and chant and so forth and so on. So, so what I want to say here is that it's perfectly reasonable to say that the chanting is the perfect way. The chanting will not only qualify one, but lead one into a meditative life by the power of the chanting, and the meditative life will correspond with the influences that you have come under. And so while there is a place for meditating on the Leela of Krishna from the perspective of a particular identity, a sthayi bhava, a defining emotion, I'm a friend of Krishna, defined. I like the romantic idea of Krishna, especially as Radha. Nobody does it better than Radha, so I would like to assist her, and through that participate in all that she's about, all that she experiences, the idea of the tabhava, of the type of Madhurya Rasa that's prominent in the Sampradaya. So when will that ability to meditate, if you will, when will that naturally come about? Well, as we go through the stages of Nishta and Ruchi. Ruchi's on the other side now. Shreya Kailava Chandrika. Something comes prominent, coming from the other side, and it's apparent. Previous to that, it's apparent that things from this side are going away. They are going away because something's coming in, but at a certain point, the ink looks more like milk than it looks like ink. In the example I gave earlier, right? And then only milk seems to be coming out, and it's nourishing to others, and so there's no ink left. So and ruchi means taste. It means greed. It means all these things. It's the greed to participate in Braj Bhakti. It can be taken very cheaply by some people, or it can be taken more conservatively. What does it constitute? And it's hard to think of having greed for being a member of Krishna Leela and really being very convincing about that when we see greed for other things still present in one. It seems a little unbecoming. It's a little unbecoming. So a little patience is required with our enthusiasm. Sometimes Prabhupada would give the example: if a young lady wants to have a baby, well, she should be enthusiastic. It's going to take 9 months. If you come and you say, I see that you're eating mangoes and you look very happy every time you eat them. I'd like a mango. I say, oh, that's great. You want to have a mango? Okay, come tomorrow. I'll give you a mango. Okay, great. So we come tomorrow, and I give you this kind of dry thing. It's kind of in the shape of a mango. It's hard, and I say, here's a mango. And give them the seed, right? And they go, what? Oh, where's the mango? So, well, here's what you do. Just take this mango, put it in the ground. Huh? I heard it comes from trees. I heard you say that it comes from the top of the trees. You're telling me to put this in the ground? Yeah, then bury it. Then bury it. I came for a mango, right? Just, so if you have faith that the Guru has something, then you follow what the Guru says. And sometimes, you can find gurus that say, here it is, take it, here's a mango. And some say, here it is, put it in the ground, water it. Now, water it, pick out any weeds that come, and then suddenly a little sprout comes. Hey, there's there. Yeah, you're more yours now. And then there are going to be blossoms one year, and there's going to be a couple mangoes, but they're not really ripe. And then suddenly it's just going to go and go. And it's going to be so big that its fruits, just one mango tree fully mature, that's it, you're done. You feed a whole village with that. So, really good teachers know the value of this and don't take it cheaply, and they teach the students to apply themselves relative to the level of their progress. And this was an emphasis of Thakur Bhaktivinoda. Now, that said, the more theoretical knowledge that we have of the ideal, and if we've come to the conclusion, let's say, this is sympathized about Manjari Bhav, and this is the ideal, and by my knowledge, I'm interested in that. Or by my knowledge, for example, let's say, I'm influenced by Vishnupad, working down to Swami Prabhupada. It's clear he said he's in Sakyarasa. I want to follow him theoretically, in initiative, sensibility of having the intellect fully focused on going to Vaishnavism, what it is, the theory, and so forth. And say, this will be my goal. Then, all right, then that topic can be researched. That's a kind of smarnam. That's a kind of smarnam, beginning smarnam. Can be researched. What is the form? And it's there in Bhakti Smriti. This is not too esoteric. Well, it's pretty esoteric, but these are the qualities. What are the leelas that correspond with those qualities, that are examples? I can read about them. I can read the commentaries, so forth. And I can be engaged in a kind of meditation, if you will, in Rupa Goswami. Jiva Goswami gives smarnam, dharana, dhyan, is it 4? Yeah. Samadhi, Dhruvanusmriti, and Samadhi. Right? So smarna means remembrance that's not continuous. It's interrupted by other things. So sometimes that remembrance is described as doing research, reading the books, about now with a more specific focus about perhaps, and chanting and so forth. And then there is dharana. Dharana is a stage where other things are pretty much kept out. Right? It's in yoga, Ashtanga yoga. It's like the dharana is like pushing out the other influences. Then comes dhyan, which means you can actually enter in there without holding back the other influences, because they're not. Your meditation, your absorption is powerful enough that the other influences aren't troublesome, but they still have a conglomerate or impact which brings you out. And so then you go back to sadhana again, and so then from there, Dhruvanusmriti means Dhruvanusmriti. The Anusmriti, the remembrance is Dhruva. It's constant. It's constant. So even while doing other things, for example, would be the idea. Typically, in times gone by, the devotees wouldn't be doing other things. But you take a person like Prabhupada, or the Goswamis, they were quite active in temples, writing books and so forth. So we consider that they were still internally, absorbed. Anyway, from Dhruvanusmriti to Samadhi. So these are the stages of smarana. Now, you have this Smarandas, how's it go? Shravandas, Apandas, Smarandas, Sampati, these stages, another way of talking about it. So you hear, hearing again, the acceptance of what you heard. This is the ideal. Yes, okay, I'm on for that. I'm going for that. Acceptance. Then smaranam, remembering what you've heard, and so forth, then attaining. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about this all in the context of Nam. He refers to Nam as Chintamani Swarup, wish fulfilling name, get your form from the name. So that said, this is the practice given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, given by the Goswami. We don't find any other really description in any of the Goswami's books. The closest thing is what I cited from Jiva Goswami, Nam Smaranam, followed by Rupa Smaranam, Guna Smaranam, Lila Smaranam. Again, the Rupa, the Guna, Lila Smaranam will be in accordance with the identity that's forming within. That concentration of the Swarup Shakti that involves like, there it is. It's me. That's me. And then that's cultivated, and so forth. So, this is the method given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, that said, shortly after the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was a time of many great devotees, there was this system that emphasized by Dhyan Chandra Goswami and Gopal Guru Goswami that aren't really different from what I'm talking about, but they speak about the Guru revealing the Swarup, kind of indirectly. The Padatis of Dhyan Chandra give meditations on Panchatattvas, on Manjaris, on Radha, on the Gaura Lila, and so forth. The verses to meditate on, and so forth. All in promotion of his works, the Manjari Bhav. So there are verses to chant. What to do in the morning, I get up, I think like this, I chant this verse, that kind of thing. I think must be mention there of 11 constituents of the Swarup, the seva, the dress, the name, so forth, age, and so forth, that it constitutes.
Family, residence.
Residence, I don't think family is actually mentioned there. Now, there are other books also that mention lesser constituents. Some say 7, 6, 11. I mean, there's going to be more than that. There's going to be a family. Where's that all going to come from? So it comes as it comes through meditation. It's a meditative body. It's a meditative body. So having spoken about it and as something that the Guru may speak to the disciple about, then there has become a tradition over the years, over the centuries, of this being in some lineages standard, that the Guru initiates, and at some point, often we see it nowadays, at the beginning, they say, and this is yours, Guru, and it's made up of these 11 constituents, and these are the Gurus in your parampara, these are their sadhaka names, these are their siddha names, and so forth. You get a letter, this is the system. In some of the lineages, not all the lineages, adopted this. And this started to be expressed in such a way that Bhakti Vinod and others also took exception to. Bhakti Vinod himself received the Diksha Patra, received the Ekadas Bhava, 11 constituents from his guru, and so on and so forth. Got the letter, Diksha Patra, and so forth. But when he writes about this, for example, in Harinam Chintamani, he writes about the revealing of the Swarup in the context of one's progressing through chanting or Jaiva Dharma and attaining taste, examining one's own taste, which means you're well versed already in the scriptures. Like if you look at these characters in Jaiva Dharma, you have Brajanath and Vijay Kumar. They're not, somebody that just came from the love feast. They know the Bhagavatam really well. They're like you, up all night, studying the Tattva. And so Gurudev asks them, what's your inclination? I kind of like Krishna's cow herding. The other one says, I like the idea of Lalita, serves. And says, okay, you should be under Lalita, follow the Swami. You should be under Subal and follow this way. That's all he tells them, the Guru. Then they go on. At the end of the book, then Rajanath or Vijay Kumar he realizes the 11 constituents of his Swarup. He's at the very, very advanced stage of bhakti where that's played out. It's talked about in the beginning in the general where the Guru says, okay, well, they're obviously very fixed up devotees. So they know the theory, they understand it. And Gurudev takes their inclinations and blesses them. So yeah, so that's fine. It's not that they suddenly they start to think of their guru in light of that and so forth. But this is they have some standing in bhakti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his idea is his explanation of the system that we're talking about from Dhyan Chandra Goswami is his explanation is different than the way others have explained it in current times. His explanation again is the devotee advances. He examines himself. That means not his material samskars, but his bhakti samskars and influences. And then he explains it to the Guru, and Guru Dev then encourages him and says, yes, this is good. If you had said that, I would have said, go back and chant some more. It's good. Yes, you're understanding. And so I could say, so then you should study this section, and so forth. Incorporate. This is the ideal that's been mentioned here, what it means to be a Saka, what it means to be a Manjari, and so forth. And you refine your understanding, practice, and so forth. This is how Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about it. He doesn't. Then he talks about through the actual practice, the constituents being realized. Now, he was given in the letter, you are so and so, this is your address name, and so on and so forth. But it's not the way he writes about it, that the Guru will do this in a way, again, the traditions, a lot of them do now. Somebody might be in the Braj as a Guru, somebody might make a pilgrimage from Bengal to Vrindavan to get initiated, get initiated, go home, get their Swarup, and they're pretty much a nice person and a devotee, but they're not, they're just in the stage of Nishta Bhajana Kriya. And then some people say, well, the Guru, he went into meditation, Krishna told him, this is this person's Swarup that I assign to that person. So you tell them, so even if he tells them they're not ready for it, still it's a great blessing, and there it is. It's been done. The important work is done, the connection's been made, the sambandha's been made. Krishna revealed to Gurudev, you are such and such Manjari. He told the person, and it may take lifetimes for them to realize it, but at least the connection's been made. And if you haven't had that yet, then there's something missing. You're missing out. This is the kind of way it's presented. And Bhaktivinoda obviously took exception to it in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because some people they consider were unqualified to talk to Krishna and get the Swarup and hand it down, and they was making a business out of it. Because they were in the family lineage of Bhakti, of Advaita or Nityananda Prabhu or something like that. And then I know for a fact that you could go to certain places where they do this, and you could go to one guru and get initiated, and the Krishna will of Krishna gave him the Swarup. You go to another one, they'll give you a different one, and another one they give you a different. I mean, that wouldn't be a nice thing to do, but it has been done. And so, that said, I don't know anywhere in the literature where it's said that the guru goes into meditation, Krishna gives him a Swarup to give the, and I never read that anywhere. You can't find, that's an interpretation that people give. The interpretation comes in Bhakti Sandarbha, where Jiva Swami says that this is the mantra, Gopal mantra, main mantra. He gives a meditation, a vision. Chant this mantra, think of Radha and Krishna underneath the desire tree. There will be gopas and gopis and cows situated there. As Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says, what is the verse? Divyam Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ratnaga Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Deva Prastadavi Sevyamano Smarami, surrounded by Sevyamano, by devotees. Jiva Goswami gives a different verses, gopas and gopis, and this is my mantra, this is my visualization, something like this. And he says something that could be interpreted to say that he gives some information, he gives the mantra. So some people have interpreted it such a way as what he's saying is, this is where he's saying, you've got to give a mantra, and then the guru has to tell you what your Swarup is. And if you don't get that, well, your situation is incomplete, and you're going to reach a dead end. This is how it's kind of promoted. And then people, these days you find people, problem. I didn't get that problem. I better go find a guru I can get that from quick. I got to do Raga and Bhakti. So out of fear and anxiety, which is exactly the motive for Raga and Bhakti, one is trying to find it, get this root and so forth. Let's also look at it from this perspective. Mostly we find sadhana siddhas, right? Persons who become perfect through practice, not nitya siddhas, aren't constantly appearing in the world and in every parampara, There's sadhana siddhas. So the sadhana siddha means that person who's a sadhana siddha and a guru has not yet left the body, entered into Krishna Lila with the eternal associates and attained Vastu Siddhi. That's what it means. You understand? Now, that means that's not a perfect devotee. Most gurus, the vast majority, if they're sadhana siddhas, they still have some distance to go. They're not going to go backwards, and they have great power to help you. But they're going to go into meditation. Krishna is going to say, "This is your Swarup," and it's okay. If people have faith in that, then I wouldn't discourage them. But it's not my faith, and I've seen too much of this going on. But I know that that's not what's happening. Now, if someone wants to give some prototype and say, because the prototype, for example, for Manjari is given there in the Sanat Kumar Samhita, so it's already there. Manjari is this age, this service, basically, you could say, here's what a Manjari is like, okay? I mean, she's this much, this age, this is her service, these things are there in literature, you can talk about that, to help a person who's progressively moving in that direction and understands it theoretically and so forth, to have a conceptualization of it in their mind and so forth. But that's one thing. But But the idea that unless the guru gives you this, there's something missing, and you got to add this now on, it's a problem. People who think that's a problem, they're having a problem chanting. That's my response. They're having a problem chanting. They're not getting much from the chanting. To think there's something missing. They're getting something from the chant, something from the chanting. They won't think anything's missing. That's for sure. And they will meditate internally on the form, the Buddhas of Krishna. They'll have interest in the topics, and they will find that their interest will find a way even to go to the right books and so forth. Their guru, for example, let's say Prabhupada's disciples, gurus not here, or they can get a Siksha guru, which is highly recommended and so forth. But the whole idea that is how you began, that you've got to get this Swarup now, this information, and start meditating on it as soon as possible, is a particular interpretation. That's all it is. It's not, there's not verses to support it. It's not like set in stone. It's not like, you're not the body that says here in the Bhagavad Gita. These are particular interpretations of a system that is not detailed by any of the Goswamis. I'm not saying it's bad or wrong, but my faith is that it's not exactly what's being thought, what's thought to be. It may not necessarily be bad. In some instances, it may be bad, and there are some real bad or misconceived notions about it. I mean, if my idea is that the guru, I get the Swarup from my guru, and my guru goes into meditation and gives it to me. Okay, I fine, if that's your faith. Maybe that's not what happens. Maybe that's, a little bit of an exaggeration on the part of the guru to keep your faith, but hopefully he or she is giving you an accurate general idea of what the Swarup is of a manjari, to be how to conceive of that and so forth. But it gets way worse than that, where people think, you just imagine it. You don't have to give, at least guys, again, for my guru, I have faith. My guru is given, it's everything. We should think like that. And if they pursue like that, I think they could be successful if they're capable of taking advantage of it. If they're not capable of taking advantage of it, then it also may be abused. I mean, if I give you a mantra and you don't chant it, well, then that's not good. That's not going to help you. So if I give you a Swarup, as in these cases, and you're off, out, just at a political rally instead, that's not what, the two don't really go together like that, So you decided, like, politics and the spiritual world, that's other world, but, it's not a Facebook, kind of, and it's fine to be on Facebook to do some preaching or something like that, I suppose, but it's not a great place to do it, I found out, but there's abuse of that too. Gurudev giving this Swarup, and that's why it's cautioned that the guru should not give the name to someone who doesn't have faith. So that's a problem for the guru. The guru can find the requisite faith and give, and then find that it wasn't really powerful enough, and now they're abusing. Of course, where the abuse comes from, the guru, or in that case, or the disciple, remains to be seen. But there's different cases. But there can be instances where the guru gives the name, or to speak of giving the Swarup, to persons who don't really understand what's going on, and I'm really eager, really want, and then they think something's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. And I mean, there were some disciples of Prabhupada whose campaign eclipsed every other Vaishnav in the world during his campaign. And then by reflection of the effulgence of his campaign, some light was shed on some of them. I'm not saying they're bad, but such was the campaign of someone who was empowered by Nityananda Prabhu. And there was a couple, you could probably count them on one hand, disciples of Prabhupada, particularly in the Sanskrit department, who got influenced by some of the persons whose Prabhupada's own light was, reflecting on Vaishnavism in general and so forth, and in Vrindavan, and they heard propaganda against Bhakti Siddhanta, that he wasn't really initiated. There's no Guru Parampara, unbroken disciplic. You ever heard the term? Unbroken disciplic succession. Look, your system is broken here. Your system goes from Baladev Vijayabhushana, for example, to Bhakti Vinod. There's a couple hundred years there in between. It's broken. Where's the link? And was this person really initiated by that person? Because there's the traditional party bars, and so anyway, they made an argument. There was propaganda against Bhakti Siddhanta, who was critiquing his own tradition considerably, and getting college people and Gandhi, people absorbed in the, Bernie Sanders of the day, to give it up entirely, and pursue Bhakti Rasa as a solution to all the problems of the world, wholeheartedly. So, so some people, they responded against him, and they made propaganda against him, and they questioned the parampara, some of the adjustments that he made, like giving sannyas and so forth. And these people never heard, these disciples of Prabhupada never heard such arguments, and then they became concerned. I'm not in the real parampara. Looking like, well, you must be not getting anything from your chanting, because I'm in the real parampara, and I can tell you that. Most of the people around here is getting something from this. They're enthusiastic for good reasons, and seeing the deities with, where your faith coming from some dead current here. What kind of? So I always thought it was a real disconnect. It just didn't make any sense to me. But they came under that influence, and then they went to get their Siddhadeha from some Baba. And I believe they were under the impression that they were just going to get this, and that they were going to go. They was going to go, the full distance and so forth. Well, none of them gone too far. Some of them, a couple of them, one of them that I know, learned the theory of Gaudiya Vaishnavism pretty well, but then he developed some other ideas that aren't orthodox. I'm not sure where he's at now. A friend of mine, but he's had some, definitely embraced some heterodox Sahajiya, technically Sahajiya conceptions of bhakti. I think he gave those up now to some extent. But at any rate, other ones are like nowhere to be found. One of them asked Prabhupada about being a scholar. Prabhupada said, first become devotee, then become scholar. So he decided first become a scholar, or why not both at the same time? He ended up a scholar and not a devotee, which is basically what Prabhupada was saying to him. It was just a handful of them. And so they were the first, to cross over and get this esoteric add-on and so forth. But they didn't have much of any influence at the time of Prabhupada. After the disappearance of Prabhupada and his institution, its spiritual leadership, being questionable with gurus, proved themselves to be unqualified and so forth. And many of them apparently over the years. Well, that obviously caused people to look here and there, maybe, and more power to them. You can't blame them, and so forth. And so, and then you had Sridhar Maharaj for example, from Gaudiya Math, it was a little different, in the way he spoke about Gaudiya Vaishnava than Prabhupada. So the concept of Manjari Bhav, for example, which wasn't really developed in ISKCON and preacher Prabhupada's preaching, he touched on that very, very nicely, very tastefully, and so forth. And then you had Puri Maharaj, also the same way, who was a little concerned that a wave of Sahajiyism is coming to the West. Well, then Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj was like a nephew of theirs, spiritual cousin of ours, but an elderly advanced devotee. He came to the West and he really saw that a lot of these disciples of Prabhupada knew people that didn't understand the role so much. And so he said, really, this is the Manjari Bhav, this is what it is. And he really emphasized that a lot. And his emphasis on it was good in many ways, but it also caused even though he himself was against the idea, caused persons to go outside of the lineage and connect with other sects that give the Swarup kind of thing, so now it's flourished a little bit more. It's having its day, and there's a lot of devotees that were disappointed by ISKCON and Gaudiya Math, and so they may find some kind of shelter there. But there's a lot of also really the ideas are out and about, but there's a lot of confusion about it, and that's what you're asking about. And so confusion. I've got to get going on this. I've got to take. Most of the point is vilifying the name. Yes, meditation smartam is central to Raghunaga Bhakti, but there's stages of smartam. I've explained it. And chanting will promote it, and so on and so forth. So our method, if it was very orthodox and given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and there's a lot of fruits to it. I would say that Sridhar Maharaj is the fruit, Prabhupada is the fruit, Bhaktisiddhanta himself is the fruit, and somebody was saying, I don't know anybody who's become attained or swarup or chanting. There's lots of them. You can't go back and say exactly how. You can't assume. They assume that this particular method that some sects engage in is the standard thing. Somehow it's the propaganda among some. But you take, our lineage is not alone in this. You take, for example, the Vedanta party of our coming from in modern times, Haridas Shastri, the Satyanarayan Das Babaji is a disciple of, who's now publishing the Sandarbhas. That lineage doesn't do anything like this. They don't promote this give you the swarup thing there. By Nam, it will come, and so forth. Use the sadhaka deha, like I said. Use the sadhaka deha, serve with that, and the Siddha deha will arise out of that. And that sadhaka deha is consumed. It's very much an emphasis on active service. And so it's not something us and everybody else is different. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Marge.
With regard to the name's power to affect this revelation, there's a verse from one of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs that you cite in the 12th chapter, the commentary on the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Vishat Vikashipuna Dekai Nidya Rupa Guna Chitta Hari Lohi Krishna Pashapuna Vikashita Hoya Braje More Jaya Loya Dekai Nidya Swarupa Vilas. When the name is even slightly revealed, it shows me my own spiritual form and characteristics. It steals my mind and takes it to Krishna's side. When the name is fully revealed, it takes me directly to Vraja, where it shows me my personal role in the eternal pastimes.
What do you know?
Very
There you go.
conclusive.
Yeah. And again, you can't, there's no meaning to realizing Krishna. So, well, Krishna may be revealed, but what about your Swarup? The two correspond. That's what people don't seem to understand, some people. The form of Krishna will manifest corresponds with the love that one is culturing. The two, you can't have one without the other. So, as Krishna reveals himself, then through his name, so the Swarup is realized to us as well. So, good. You understand? Shri Gaurada Madhava ki jai. Paribhar ki jai. Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Lord Premanand.
Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Swami Guru Maharaj ki jai.